Right now, the AI boom shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, it's getting even bigger, and that's already starting to push up the price of hardware, especially RAM. Soon it could affect graphics cards and even storage as well. A lot of people are hoping prices will drop so they can finally build a gaming PC, but at this rate, that might take a while. And your main gaming experience might just be watching gameplay on YouTube instead. But today, we're doing something different. We're going to build a $150 gaming PC, and surprisingly, it can still play a lot of modern games. So let's stop talking and start building. Before we start, there's one thing I need to be upfront about. This entire PC is going to be built using used parts. Some of them might even have minor issues. Building a brand new gaming PC for around $200 is basically impossible. So the process here is going to be a little different from a normal PC build. I'll have to stay flexible when choosing parts and work with whatever good deals I can find. And the best strategy isn't buying each component individually. Instead, I usually look for pre-built office PC on the used market. Places like eBay or Facebook Marketplace can be great for this. Of course, there's always some risk of getting scammed, so you have to be careful. I'll show you what I ended up buying. But more importantly, I want to teach you how to fish, not just hand you the fish. In other words, I want you to learn how to find these deals yourself. First, I needed to find an old pre-built PC or workstation. If you can find a good one, it already covers a lot of the basic components you need. Since my goal is gaming, I was looking for something with at least a quad-core CPU and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Luckily, finding systems like that isn't nearly as hard as it used to be. Still, I tried to get the most modern platform possible so we'd have a better upgrade path later. And that's when I came across this Lenovo Idea Center 90FN. According to the sticker on the case, it comes with an Intel Pentium G 4400, a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and 4 gigabytes. I picked it up for $60. Now you might be wondering, why was it so cheap? Well, let's open it up and take a look inside. The seller actually warned that the PC was broken and untested, and as soon as I looked inside, I understood why. Someone had literally cut the power cables, and not just one, pretty much all of them. Even worse, the system doesn't have a proper SATA power connector for the hard drive anymore. Now let's plug it in and see if this thing actually works. And yeah. Total silence. No fans, no lights, nothing. So it's pretty clear the system has a power issue. At this point, I was a little worried because this machine uses a proprietary 10-pin power connector, which means you can't just drop in a normal power supply. So I ordered a 24-pin to 10-pin adapter for about $10. Once that arrived, things got a lot simpler. All right, moment of truth. Let's try powering it on again. Oh, it's alive. I honestly didn't expect that. That pretty much confirms the original power supply was dead. Since there's no hard drive installed, the system booted straight into the BIOS. But here's the real surprise. Inside the system is actually an Intel Core i7-6700 and 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is completely different from what the sticker on the case said. Of course, I already knew that before buying it, because let's be honest, there's no way I would pay $60 for a PC with just a Intel Pentium G 4400. So at this point, we already have the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and a stock cooler ready to go. The problem is the original case. It's extremely small, which means there's no way to install a standard ATX power supply. And honestly, I don't want this PC running games on integrated graphics anyway. So why not just move everything into a completely new case? That way we can install a proper power supply and have the flexibility to add a dedicated GPU of almost any size. For this build, I picked up a Micro ATX case that comes with 3 fans and dual glass side panels. I'll just remove the motherboard from the original system and transfer everything into the new case. It's actually a very simple process, something pretty much anyone can do. Right now, the system only has 8 gigabytes of RAM, so I also bought another 8 gigabyte stick for about $36. That brings the total up to 16 gigabytes running in dual channel. which should give us a nice performance boost. One component that basically decides your frame rate in a gaming PC is the GPU. And yeah, for gaming builds, it's the most important part. At this point, I had already spent $131, and I still needed to buy a power supply as well. So every dollar mattered, and I had to be really careful with my choices. My goal was to find a GPU that would pair well with the Intel Core i7-6700, ideally something with at least 6 gigabytes of VRAM. But very quickly I noticed something. Most NVIDIA GPU were simply too expensive. I couldn't find anything under $60, and if I forced myself to buy one, the whole build would go over budget. So I went with a choice that might surprise some people. I picked up an AMD Radeon RX 570 with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and I got it for just $40. Now, you're probably wondering why it was so cheap. First, many of these cards were previously used for cryptocurrency mining. They can still deliver great performance, but their long-term reliability is always a bit of a gamble. Second, this particular card only has one display output, a DVI. That alone already lowers the resale value. And it also looks like this GPU might have been repaired at some point, but performance-wise, it's still a beast for the price. And most importantly, I've already tested it, and it works perfectly fine. At this point, I had to think very carefully because the remaining budget was pretty tight. That meant I couldn't go with one of the big-name power supplies that everyone recommends. After searching for quite a while, I finally found a Xigmatech 350-watt power supply for about $30. Now, here's the thing. The rated power might say 350 watts, but realistically, the true continuous output is closer to 250 watts. So the question is that enough for this build? The short answer is yes. Because in most real-world scenarios, your components aren't running at 100% load all the time. However, this setup is really only safe for short bursts of heavy load. If you constantly push the system to its limits for long periods, a power supply like this might struggle. That's why, in general, I always recommend investing in a reliable PSU from a reputable brand with at least 150 watts more capacity than what your system actually needs. It's one of the few parts you really shouldn't cheap out on. Oh, and I almost forgot one more component: storage. For this build, I picked up a used 120 gigabyte SSD. You can find tons of these on the used market, especially on places like eBay. I managed to grab this one for just $11, so in total, all the parts used in this video add up to $212. Aesthetically, the system actually fits the case really well, almost like it was meant to be there. The only small downside is that the front USB ports on the motherboard are blocked by the case layout, so they're not usable. But honestly, I don't really care about that. What matters most is performance. So let's see what this thing can actually do in games. First up is Counter-Strike 2. At 1080p on low settings, VRAM usage goes up to around 5.8 gigabytes, and the game looks surprisingly good. Most of the time, the frame rate stays well above 100 frames per second. One thing that really surprised me was the GPU power consumption. Even when it's running at full load, it only pulls about 60 watts, even though the manufacturer lists the maximum TDP at 150 watts. My guess is that this card was previously undervolted or power limited during its time mining cryptocurrency. Next, I tested a much heavier title, Cyberpunk 2077. At low settings, the system delivers around 50 frames per second. For a story-driven game like this, that's still perfectly playable on this PC. Finally, I tried Minecraft with Bezel shaders enabled, and a render distance of 8 chunks. Even with the shader pack, the frame rate stays around 50 frames per second, and I didn't notice any major drops while moving quickly or loading new areas. And honestly, the visuals look fantastic. Minecraft almost starts to feel realistic. So that's it. The $212 gaming PC build is finally complete. And honestly, it performs better than I expected. It can run most modern games at 1080p, and for lighter titles, performance is even better. Smooth and perfectly playable. I didn't go into too much detail with those games because realistically, this system handles them without any problem. Now, the only thing I'm really hoping for is that my power supply doesn't suddenly give up. If you were to build something similar, this actually wouldn't be a bad setup at all, as long as you upgrade the power supply to a higher quality one. Anyway, thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.